And we will share out the recording after our time together, probably sometime early next week. In addition to that, we will send the slide deck that we're going to use just as prompts to our discussion today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share the slides. Whoa, let's try that again because we're not on the front. Okay, you know what? Oh, sorry, hold on one second. I'm realizing I don't think I have a co-host, and so I need to make one so someone else can admit people from the waiting room. Amy, okay to make that you? Thank you. You're on mute, but you're the first smiling face that I saw for that task.
I was just saying, I see some faces from the high school think tank call. Thank you for coming back.
All right, I think we are good now. Amy, you should be able to admit people from the waiting room, yeah?
Yes, I should.
Awesome. And everyone can see my screen? Yes? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
All right, so today we are going to just do a bit of connecting. I'd love it here in a minute. I'll stop sharing so we can see each other better. If those of you who this might be your first time joining could introduce yourselves. And then Amy is going to take us through essentially a grounding activity just to get us all regulated and connected. Then we are going to transition to a refresher for those of you who have heard this before, or those of you who are new, a little bit about how to tell the story or document progress as you work towards aligning and integrating social, emotional, behavioral, mental health initiatives into a single system of delivery. We're then going to do some activities in breakout rooms, and we'll close out with some next steps. So how about if we first of all, before Amy gets started, take a moment for those of you whom this might be your first time joining to come off mute and introduce yourselves. And so if there's anyone willing to start, that would be great. Otherwise, I'll look for maybe some unfamiliar faces and do some call outs.
I don't mind starting, Kelly.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome. My name is Renee Perry, and I'm a school climate specialist with First District RESA in Brooklet, Georgia. And I have joined some of these virtual ones before, and I'm really enjoying them. So thanks for having us today.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee. Others that this might be your first time joining or first time in a while, and you want to introduce yourself?
I can go. I'm Erin Potter. I'm an SEBH systems coach for Northwest Area Education Agency in Iowa.
Welcome, Erin. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Kelly. This is Alicia Zeman.
How about Alicia and then Lee? Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, I am the PBIS coordinator here in West Virginia. We have a small but mighty contingent attending today. We participated pre-COVID and took a year off, and we're back to try to get back on track. So thanks for having us.
Excited that you're here.
I'm Lee Brown, and I'm with the Kentucky Department of Education, and I am a PBIS ISF consultant. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Lee.
Hi, team. This is Christy Bryce. I'm not a new face, but I'm happy to be here. I don't always get to join. I'm joining from a loud space, so I'm going to stay muted most of the time and contribute via chat.
Thanks, Christy. Welcome.
I can go. I'm Jill Sharp. I am the one of the assistant directors of the Wisconsin RTI Center. And I am joining you from Southwest Wisconsin today.
Thanks, Jill.
I'm Christy Fubio. I am a behavior support specialist and part of Alicia Zeman's team in West Virginia.
Welcome, Christy. Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you too.
It's nice to see new and familiar faces here with us today. If there are no others, I will go back to Amy. Do you need me to share the? Okay, go ahead then.
All right. We're just going to do a grounding activity, and the activity is called breathing through your feet. And so I'm going to explain it to you, and then I'm going to have you turn your cameras off so that you have maybe less distraction. So the first thing is we all need to have activities that we do that help us get self-regulated, that help us get regulated in the moment when something stressful is happening. So whether that's when you're watching the news or watching the news or reading the news or anything that's you find stressful, which there's been a lot going on lately. You need to have activities that are practices that you can do in the moment when you start to feel yourself get kind of wound up or upset, or when you feel your body tighten. And so breathing through the bottoms of your feet is a great way to do this, because no one will ever know you're breathing through the bottoms of your feet. I don't know if you knew it was possible to breathe through the bottoms of your feet. So what we're going to do is, in a minute, I'm going to have you turn your camera off, and I'm going to walk you through how to do this. And then I'm going to be quiet for a whole minute while you practice on your own. So here are the things I want you to remember. When you breathe through your feet, what you do is you just set your intention that your breath is coming from the bottoms of your feet. And when you inhale, you're trying to bring the breath all the way up to the top of your head. And then when you exhale, you're letting the breath go all the way out to your fingertips, all the way out through the bottoms of your feet. So you're trying to extend your breath, basically. The things I don't want you to worry about are, I don't want you to worry about the speed of your breath or how shallow it is, or whether the pattern of your breathing changes. You don't need to worry about that at all, and you don't need to try to change it at all. And you don't need to try to strain to focus or concentrate. So it's completely normal for your mind to wander off and go into the land of, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Or what's next on my agenda? That's completely normal. So don't worry about pushing thoughts away. Don't worry about pushing sounds away, unless it's my dogs. And you don't need to do anything special other than set your intention that you could breathe through your feet, and let everything else be. So if you would turn your camera off, and then you can decide if you are going to close your eyes or keep your eyes open. Before we start, check your surroundings, make sure you're in a good spot, that you're safe, that you feel comfortable. Then what I'd like for you to do is commit to yourself that you're gonna just for a minute, stop looking at anything electronic. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have you focus on the bottoms of your feet and take a deep breath in, imagining the breath comes all the way up from your feet, through your legs, all the way through your torso to the top of your head. And then when you exhale, imagine it comes all the way from the top of your head, down your body, through your fingertips, through the bottoms of your feet. So I'm going to set my timer for a minute. We'll do one more together, and then you'll be on your own for a minute, and then I'll call us back together. So deep breath in through the bottoms of your feet. And then exhale. Imagining it goes all the way down to the bottoms of your feet. So I'm going to set the timer for a minute, and if you would just practice this on your own for a minute, we'll come back together. Okay, if you would bring your attention back to right now where you're sitting, what's happening around you, then we can get started with the rest of our activities today. So thank you very much. Hopefully you can begin to practice. This is a great way to help you if you have a hard time falling asleep, is imagining this activity from the bottoms of your feet. So hopefully that will get us all settled and in the room.
Thank you, Amy. I'm going to go back to sharing the PowerPoint now, and Lucille is going to set the stage for some of our breakout activities today.
Hey, everybody. Are you back, or are your feet still breathing for you? That was great, Amy. Thank you very much. I'm trying to get my husband to do the deep breathing for sleeping, and I'm gonna try this with him. Okay. Maybe maybe the novelty will turn the corner for us, right? Okay. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. And again, hearts and thoughts to all of our Michigan friends who are dealing with yet another school catastrophe, another reason to stay the course, keep grounded, and build our systems. I wanted to start with a little reminder of what it takes to change systems. And as life goes on, we change our course. When the pandemic hit, and we had demo sites, we were very selective with our professional learning community, and really focused on a very detailed evaluation plan. And other things became priorities in schools besides TFIs, especially when children weren't in school. And so we've adjusted over time, and we're really grateful to all of you who started out in the small group and stayed with the small group. And we're so excited that we've extended this discussion of how do we proceed, progress, and even document our progress towards changing systems. So thanks, everybody. Dr. Kurt Hatch repeated some messages that we've been giving for years, and he just did it so well in the opening session of our mental health strand for the PBIS forum. And they're words we use all the time. And I'm a big fan, especially of that D word, about what we have to do is be really, really deliberate about what changes we're capable of making, what strengths we need to hold on to and build further, what pathways we don't need to venture off into, and how we support each other. And building these systems is hard work, but I really like how Dr. Hatch, how Kurt said, be deliberate, be meticulous, and build on strengths. And if you'd like to hear more from him, the recordings have just come out. I think everybody got an email, right, Kelly? Everybody got an email with all the recordings. And it was just one of my favorite moments was when Kurt in the opening session said, be deliberate, be meticulous, and build on strengths. And he said it a little slower with some things in between. But let's talk about all the different ways over the years we've tried to share our progress, and those of us at the national level, how we've tried to share your progress, because sharing and documenting progress is how we make even more progress. A, we learn from each other. B, we support our local implementers in being able to put forth what they've learned, which, as you know, sharing, if you've ever done a presentation about your efforts locally, you move forward when you decide what to share and how to share it. And so we wanted to make sure that as everybody's working so hard to build mental health systems, that we remember the basics about documenting progress. But, we've had a lot of discussion on our team about documenting small steps of incremental change. And most of you have been at this for a long time. Kelly, let's go to that Wayback Machine slide. Thank you, Brian, for digging up all the Illinois EBD network, PBIS network newsletters we wrote over the years. And I don't know if can you make this one a little, maybe it's just my screen. Can everybody read that? I hope so. But here's a classic example from 2014, focused on vulnerable populations. And this is a statewide example that we had where we took a step back and looked at check and check out progress and looked at kids with disabilities and were able to say what the problem statement was, you know, and then what we did, what schools did, and what was the outcome. You know, we're all busy implementing, adding programs, adding initiatives, but we have to remember the cardinal rules with MTSS that makes it successful is before you move forward, decide how you're going to know if it works or not. And that's hard because we all want to feel like we're doing something. Everybody wants to feel like they're doing something, but we have to make sure it's something that we can check on to make sure that it is working for kids, for families, for teachers, whatever your target is. And some of the examples we were looking at actually went back to 2004, 2003, 2002, you know, we're looking at maybe different things, but not so much. Our most vulnerable populations being able to access interventions early on rather than just wait till tier 3 and being able to show progress is really important. So we're going to move forward and look at some examples of how to document and share progress. And I want you all to think about, if you would, just for a moment, something in the past year that if you had an opportunity to address constituents that make decisions about resources, which is money and time and what we should do or not do, what would you pick to share with somebody? Would it be a formal assessment? Would it be an informal discussion of progress? Would it be a little local teaching learning story? They're all equally useful in different circumstances. And sometimes it's what do we have? And other times it's what point do we want to make with people? So some of them you are doing SSFIs, DSFIs, TFIs, and ISFIIs. I can't even say it without laughing. A lot of acronyms, but those are all fidelity tools for those of you that might not know, but I think you all do. There's a state systems fidelity index. There's a district systems fidelity index. There's a school-based tiered fidelity index. And then there's actually an index of fidelity about the interconnectedness of your systems that's done at the building level. And there may be some formal assessments you want to share with people to show progress. It may be that you want to go a little bit deeper, but you only have some informal discussion when you go deeper. So for example, it may be how a team is progress monitoring a specific intervention. And it may be student surveys pre and post. You may also have a local teaching story, learning story, and we'll show you some examples of those in just a moment. So Kelly, if you could go to the next slide. So examples of possible progress, changes in system features, and some of you here today represent the state level, some of you are district level people, and some of you may be local implementers. And the development or changes in leadership teams is really critically important. Sometimes a school district doesn't reach out to their mental health partners until there's a crisis. And okay, that may be the impetus to do that. But what we're really trying to advocate is to get more voices at the table. And you may have examples of that are worth sharing in terms of pre your ISF efforts, if you will, and current being changes in team structures, which leads to changes in policies, changes in MOUs. And then as we really get down and dirty, if you will, some of the biggest and the hardest changes are the changing roles of clinical staff. And for clinical staff to be on teams providing insight and guidance, not necessarily just being there to, quote, accept referrals and go off to the side and do their work separately, but to make decisions as part of a team. We know that's the hardest one. And it may be that you're not there yet, or you're only there yet at a certain tier, but paying attention to your progress and deciding what to share is really important. And our job, of course, is to help you all share. And by the way, You'll see examples of these, and let's look at the next one on building fluency. The fluency builders, for example, talking about how and why you're moving to a single system, facilitating local conversations about a district community leadership team. We talk to some of you sometimes, and when we talk with you, you say, I get that, but I don't know if I can explain that to our current partners that we're trying to engage in doing something differently. And when you do get there and you feel like you have fluency on your own team, that's a beautiful sign of progress. I would encourage all of you to take a look at the recordings from the forum. And we're going to share a few today to kickstart the small group. But you'll see examples of people talking about leadership teams and how to establish buy-in for change. I think we have Central School District, Kelly, from Oregon as a starter. And the other one, is it Massachusetts? Did we go with Gardner, or was it a different one?
It's Salinas High School.
Salinas High School. And there's another one on there that I remember, Gardner, which is not a high school district, but more of an elementary, from Massachusetts, that did a session at the forum. They really talked about changes in routines, how they establish team. I wanted to talk about one that we didn't use a clip for, so thank you, Kelly. So the Gardner one that we're not using today really talked about the changes in the routines of their teams, and their team structure has changed, and they don't quite have the community partners on the teams yet at the building level. They have them at the district level, but they're moving in that direction. But they felt and shared significant progress of change just among their own team members at the school level, how they had to change what they were doing. So, getting buy-in and what you share might be a little peel back more layers, and it's just as important and just as useful as if you had data. So when you're thinking about what do we have to share, what are we proud of, what do we need help with, or what do we want people to know about, we want you to think about, and let's show them the key messages for a moment. So your progress, with or without formal data, right, may be about a single system of delivery. And if you want data around a single system of delivery to share with your story, take a look at the Interconnected System Framework Inventory, the III, or as we sometimes call it, the III, because it's too much of an acronym, but it's the ISF Implementation Inventory. And you can really measure the single system of delivery at the building level. But how do you measure your single system of delivery at the district level? Perhaps by who's now on your team and what issues you're tackling, what conversations you're having, and how you're building fluency among a broader group of constituents around what a single system looks like. My favorite of these messages from day one when we started this, which is back many years ago. I can't even remember what year we put these messages together, but access is not enough. And I know that message is not stated positively, so we'll state it positively. Success is defined by outcomes. When you move even one school or one team away from merely counting how many kids got access to support to actually saying, what was the presenting problem? What was the data point, and how did it change during the course of the intervention, is much more powerful than just counting the number of kids. We really are looking for examples, and we have a few to share with you, and plenty of them were in the PBIS forum throughout the sessions, that, access to mental health is not the goal. And that's why everybody's so concerned about new money, new people without changing systems. New money, we need it. New people, we need more people. But doing the same thing they did before is not what we're after. And so moving into a framework of single system of delivery requires the use of resources to support change. So what changes have you been supporting, no matter how little, that you might want to be bringing forward to help people feel the hope and the joy and the pleasure, if you will, of progress? And the other two messages, of course, mental health is for all. There are numerous examples just in the mainstream media, some of them good, some of them not so good, about how we've expanded to teaching all kids coping skills, recognition of depression, recognition of anxiety, right? Teaching all kids how to recognize and develop health from a mental health standpoint, as well as a physical health, as pretty much precursors to success at school and success in the world. So anything being taken from tier, used to be we only did that at tier 3 down to tier 2 or to tier 1. Those are important examples of progress when we're teaching, for example, coping skills to everyone, because a survey indicates to us that over 50% of the kids are feeling less capable about coping with anxiety and changes in their environment. And then let's go to the next slide for our fourth key message here. The MTSS features that hold us all together in terms of a future of better outcomes for kids and families, right? And so if we continue to operate in silos, we're going to continue to have splintered systems and splintered responses and not be able to be as prevention focused. So the effective teaming and moving from merely assigning kids to people on caseloads, and instead having teams look at data and expanding the data we look at to a much more global view of wellness and looking at community data at the school level to be aware of what's happening with our kids and our families when they're not inside our building, as well as when they're inside our building. And then, of course, the whole selection of practices. Do you have a story to tell about a team that's newly configured, looked at data they didn't used to look at before, and came up with interventions at the universal level, for example, that are in response to community data, not just school data? That's really important in terms of, one of the early examples I remember being a part of it, and I think it was in the city of Chicago, when there was a huge spike in kids in homeless shelters. And they actually took a little tour with the school team to the homeless shelters to see what it was like for the kids who actually were there when they left school and came there. And then they came back and changed, for example, the, godforsaken homework thing. And they made significant changes based on a community data point. Well, now we've moved on to all kinds of community data being shared with school teams. Now with the knowledge about trauma and all kinds of community data available, any examples that you can share to bring your community closer together. I know that's hard right now. I know we have constituency groups out there who think perhaps that mental health and learning coping skills isn't what we need to be doing. And stick with the data, stick with the evidence-based practice, pay attention to early access and progress monitoring. And of course, the coaching that we all need and all do right now requires a much deeper level of connection and empathy for all the pressures that everybody is under inside the school every day. But it's really important to keep our nose to the grindstone, if you will. So I'm going to do a couple more quick examples that are about installing an interconnected system, teams, right? Assess current status of mental health and reach consensus on a mission statement, establish routines and procedures, and develop an integrated action plan. If you're only at these installation stages, there are potential stories, data stories, formal or informal, and examples of progress that you can share that can help build better buy-in, engagement, and deeper connection. So don't think just because you haven't gotten to the intervention changes yet that you don't have anything to share with your constituency groups or with each other, because these examples right here in terms of reaching consensus on a mission statement that changes the role of clinicians in terms of the routines and procedures in the building, that's huge. And we know it takes a lot of work to get there. So, whether you're at installation or implementation, think about teaching and learning stories. We have a little template that we're going to share with you 2 examples of. And it's the template that we used back in Illinois before PBIS. Yes, there was a before PBIS. It was called the Illinois EBD Network. And we did lots of templates and they worked, and we built great political support over the early years using these stories continuously. And there's the steps there. There's nothing new for anybody. This is not a deep research training or anything, but identifying a change or a system feature to support the example, and what was the precondition, what strategy was used, what happened after, and what's going to happen next. It's kind of basic and kind of simple, but you can build engagement, you can build buy-in from constituency groups by keeping the stories coming. Some of you have newsletters online and just short little snippets. Let's look at the Iowa example, Kelly, and then I think we have a Michigan example. We're hanging around the upper Midwest today, right? So with our Iowa example, let's see. Kelly, do you want to share this one since you worked this one, and I'll do the Michigan one? She's smiling.
Well, I'm smiling because Tammy McSweeney, I know, is here, and I don't want to put her on the spot, but if she'd like to tell the story, it's one of theirs. I'm happy to have her do that. Otherwise, I will certainly share, because I did not let her know ahead of time that we were going to do this.
And does she recognize the story?
I'm sure she does. They shared it at the last time we had a face-to-face forum. So I guess that's a couple years ago now.
Yes, Kelly, good thing I love you. I really wish Katie was here, because this is really one of the schools Katie was at. But yes, so one of the things I'm going to probably, it's been a while since I've told this story, but so one of the things that we have celebrated here is there was an elementary school that had a school-based therapist at the school, and we're still at they need there a certain amount of students to have their billable hours filled up right away so that they can remain in the school. So we're still working on all that stuff. But one of the things that happened at one of their team meetings is that the school counselor reported that they had a student that they were concerned about. And because of the number of times that she was going to the nurse's office, on top of that, the mom had called and was just reporting that she was having trouble getting her student to come to school, and she was just concerned about her. And so one of the things we really celebrated was that instead of going right to our school-based therapist, because she was there and available and all of that, the team decided to utilize check in, check out for this student to see if they could get some improvement. And long story short, they put her on check in, check out, knowing that she was going to do really well on her DPR, but we were really looking at, was it decreasing nurses' visits? And then also in talking with the mom, how were things happening at home? And because of the intervention, her nurses' visits went way down. Her mom reported that she was much happier, wanted to come to school, and really viewed this as a success. Didn't have to pull this girl out for individual therapy. She built a better relationship with her teacher. Wow, Kelly, what am I forgetting?
That was great, Tammy.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
I got your back. I mean, I think to me, the best parts of this example is that, as you said, prior to a new way of work in a single system, the mom would have called and this kid would have been on somebody's caseload in individual intervention, missing class, et cetera, et cetera. Because this team took the parents' report and looked at all the data, the only data they had indicating there was a concern was she was a little bit elevated on the screener, but then it was visits to the nurse. And so they went with that low level tier 2 intervention, and it was sufficient. And so I think that's the part that to me is really compelling about this example.
And how I like to use that example. Thank you, Tammy, so much.
Sure.
It's much better coming from you than from us. To me, this is a beautiful example to use within the context of the changing role of clinicians and teams and the expansion. I mean, the real value of MTSS is doing more at the lower tiers and not responding identically with a big jump to a handoff, which takes the situation and the student that takes the student further away from the natural setting. And the further you are away from the natural setting for the installation of the intervention, the less likelihood or the longer time it's going to take to see an impact. So in terms of trying to get people to commit to using the MTSS features, this is a fabulous training example and coaching example. And it may also be a good example to help people understand how it's more efficient and more valuable to kids and families to take the more expansive view of the data and of the situation and move quickly with a simpler intervention. So there's so many ways you can go with this one. We've got one more we'll share with you. And this is an example, to me, this is an example of how one small little thing in a school can spark an interest, even if you don't have the state or district behind you, which you did in Iowa. You had the state behind you, you had the district behind you, and you move forward. Sometimes it takes a little example to boost people above you, and maybe you needed to do that too. But in this one, there was attempt to try some ISF, some interconnected system framework in one school. And the story as I heard it, and then we wrote it into this format, the precondition was, we're getting way too many referrals. If everybody wants all the kids to be referred to the mental health clinician who can't, quote, see all these kids. And so they weren't talking about interventions. They were just talking about caseloads. And the teachers were really not part of the mental health supports. And basically what they did is, with one grade level team, this is not sustainable unless other changes happen after, but sometimes getting something going engages the people above to want to make the changes that are sustainable over time. And that's kind of what happened in this particular case, is they took the clinician who was only taking caseloads and did a little ISF intervention and put the clinician on the teams with the teachers. And then they began integrating the social emotional learning skills into the matrix under the context of, we got too many kids people are asking for help for. And if we had that in reading, we wouldn't refer them all to individualized reading instruction. We would drop down and change what we did. It'd be like bringing the reading specialist in to help adapt the curriculum down to where the kids were. But in this case, it was a clinician and it was social emotional learning. And then they did a lot of coaching with the teachers, and they actually just increased their fidelity at tier 1. And they saw some side effects they weren't exactly looking for, which is this grade level had greater academic test score gains after, or at the end, or at a progress monitoring point with this intervention. And then their precondition was met. They had a drastic drop in the number of requests for tier 2, tier 3, and built up their academics and their behavior impact at tier 1. And the teacher dialogue changed, right? The teachers were now feeling a little more fluent, a little more competent, a little more confident about how to prevent the need to refer kids out of the classroom and strengthen what we do inside the classroom. And then the district coordinator and the clinician and the principal could take this example, and they did, back to the district level and start working on greater district change. So the idea here is, we all have something happening that we are proud of. I think everybody on this call is working on something. It may not be the foremost thing in your brain, but our hope today is that we can take a little detour, if need be, into what is a progress example that would either build engagement, build buy-in, build confidence and resiliency among the adults, and help move the system forward. And that's one of our goals, is to help everybody. And we're always looking for good examples to share. And again, you feel good when you share your example. I don't know, Tammy, when you're put on the spot, I don't know how good that feels, but I wouldn't have done that to you, but Kelly knows you better than I do. But anyway, I'm going to hand this back over to Kelly to see if anybody's got some comments in the chat we want to talk about before we move into the breakouts?
I'm going to stop sharing as well.
Yes,
Comments or questions?
Lindsay Lee, I agree with you. You know, what it can do, you know, we really need to have examples showing people how tier 1 makes a difference, especially these days when there's some criticisms out there for what we're doing, right? Oh yes, and the nurses.
I don't know if we want to share more examples or if that will take time away from the large group and we want to save that for the small group.
Well, Christy, let me set the stage for what we're going to do, and then we can decide from there. What we're planning is putting you into 3 small groups. We've queued up a couple of short snippets from some of our exemplars who did present at the forum. And then Amy, Katie, and Brian, who will each be in one of the breakout rooms, are going to help facilitate some dialogue among all of you to either share an example that you have, or you could also say what you heard from the person who was speaking as the exemplar. And then we'll come back. We're going to do this 2 different times, so we'll come back and do some quick report out and sharing, but we're going to do our best to get all of those breakouts recorded because we don't know what we don't know. And I bet you all have some great stories of progress that we'd love to hear and maybe find a way to document or put in some sort of a template like that. Other comments or questions? Okay, I'm looking at the time and we still have about 45 minutes left. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms. We're going to take about 15 minutes for this first one where you can listen to this quick clip and then have some discussion and hopefully share out some stories. And we appreciate, you know, all of you for being willing to jump in the conversation and participate. So I will set my timer once I open the rooms. And I think you all by now are probably more fluent than you want to be about joining breakout rooms, but I'll be here to help anybody who gets stuck. Welcome back, everyone. I was telling Christy Bryce that somehow I forgot the detail that it was possible that we wouldn't be able to record in the breakouts. So you'll all have to repeat all stories at a later date unless we had stenographers taking stupendous notes. Wherever Tricia Schroed was, I'm sure she got every detail down that I do know. So how about like one quick whip around report out from each group? How about if we do that? Katie, how about your group?
Well, Tammy shared a great example from the district team that they've been working with, and kind of similar in the that they really took to heart building out a really representative district community leadership team in the beginning, and that team was a little large to be managing. And so how have they similar process of really honing in on the work that's being done and kind of similar to Central School District. And so we really talked about that sometimes we're doing more than what we want to recognize, or we get caught up in the idea that if it's not documented officially on one of the tools or resources that we might have within the installation guide, that we can't say that we've made progress. And I think what Britta did and what Tammy was recognizing in Iowa is that there is a lot of progress that's happening, and we need to take a step back and be able to highlight that progress for ourselves, but for the districts as well, to keep that momentum going. But Tammy, if there's other parts to add there, jump in.
Thanks, Katie. Brian, how about your group? Oh, go ahead, Amy.
I was just say I can go. So it was so nice to me, like 5 seconds before the room closed, I asked Jill Sharp to start talking. So she got cut off right in the center of it. But we didn't watch the video. Christy shared her story about what's been happening, and we had some really great conversation around it. So basically there's, they acknowledged a disproportionate use of discipline data that was happening. And rather than just getting stuck in this giant, this is about parents kind of overwhelming, big, overarching, blaming kind of thing, they really narrowed it down to 3 areas where instead of the parents don't care, they really got down to they're working, English might not be their native language, and they're really disconnected. So they put some work in place in the community to engage those families, and it was really, really successful. So what we landed on, I thought Miriam was so good about saying this, is, sometimes sharing the story isn't enough, right? Because people can dismiss it as, oh, well, that would never work here, or here are the 18 reasons why that we could never do that. And instead, making sure that when we're sharing our story, we're also sharing the data so that we can back it up. So the story makes it really interesting and motivating, but it's the data that might help really create that strong base for it. And then we also had some conversation about like beginning to make sure that we're using, instead of the but word, we're using the and word when we're talking, and when we're trying to achieve something, really changing our approach to thinking about and then before Jill got cut off, she was talking about the importance, she started to talk about the importance of really coming back to that continuous improvement process over and over again. Oh, did Christy or anyone, did I miss anything that you wanted to say?
Sounds like a great discussion. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, our team did watch the video, follow rules, and it's good, all good, Amy. We'll talk about that later. couple of the takeaways. Like that, the section of the video honored it, the person presenting talked about the good work that was being done. So they started in a let's honor where we're at. Mm-hmm. Then they identified that they had the right people at the table, or certainly they had a lot of people at the table, and that's key too early on. And then we just identified, we saw this as a teaching opportunity to highlight the importance of an initiative inventory, which is early on in the installation steps for ISF. And out of this initiative inventory they had, they were able to align initiatives. So trying to create that singular multi-tiered framework, which is a part of the implementation blueprint. They have a section on staff development, which is training and coaching in the implementation blueprint. And then they had a team working on identifying student needs, which was the evaluation plan of the implementation blueprint. So we just saw that nice connection between how they took all this great work being done and were able to align it to the implementation blueprint, what you would get through the SSFI or DSFI, and try to organize the good work.
Awesome. Thank you. Other comments, or does anyone have any questions about that last activity? And I want to point out that Susan typed in chat, we also encourage you to use the same idea back in your states, regions, or districts where you could show a clip from one of the recorded sessions of the forum and use it to facilitate some similar dialogue or problem solving or brainstorming based on whatever priority areas or action items you have that you're focused on.
Kelly, I would just add, we didn't get there because the breakout rooms are always so rude in cutting us off. But I would say like the data pieces that were sticking out to me on like how to then show growth for that team. Like I would love to know how much time they were spending in team meetings prior, like in all those teams, and where they were at post condition, and like how much staff time that was taking. I think Trisha Schroed had I saw a recording she just did about the amount of time teams spend, staff spend in meetings in education. But that was interesting to me. And I was also thinking that to Brian's point on the items there being the components of the implementation blueprint, that I think monitoring the DSFI domains of training, coaching, and evaluation would be a good place to pull in that data piece that we were referencing. So those were the thoughts that we didn't really get to in our breakout group, but I was thinking about.
That's awesome. Thanks, Katie. Lucille, any thoughts before we go back to breakout rooms for the second clip?
Nope, I'm good. And I like the idea of the first start, maybe before the clip, and see if anybody has something to share that we could work off of. That's a good idea.
Okay. So I'm going to open the rooms again, and we'll go another 15 minutes, and then we'll come back together. A couple housekeeping things before we wrap it up, but we'll do an opportunity for some reporting out as well. Okay. And there you go. Looks like we've got about 10 more seconds before, as Katie said, the breakout room will rudely shoot everybody back over here into our main room. All right, welcome back. How about if we do another quick round of report outs, and then we'll talk about some next steps. Brian, you want to go first this time?
Sure.
Thanks.
I commented that I really like that these are high school examples. I always think that's helpful when we can see high school teachers understanding multiple tiers of support. One of the comments in our group was we appreciated the emphasis on just counting the number of groups you have at tier 2 or counting the number of students involved is not really indicating that it's working, that the data is really important. So decision making on how to on what supports are needed, how do we access those supports, how do we monitor, and then how do we transition off those supports. So that idea of the data. And I think we're just kind of honoring the examples early on with the integration of the clinicians across the tiers, and then those systems and processes that were in place.
Thank you.
I can go next.
Okay.
Our group is on fire. I took like 2 pages of notes here, but basically the things I'll highlight, since I know we're short on time, is really pointing out and emphasizing that the teaming piece was at all 3 tiers, and that there was the integrated systems of delivery was really one of our focus areas, as well as the mental health practitioners at the tier 1 team level really stuck out. We also talked about the request for assistance really implies there's a system behind it, and referral implies there's a person behind it. So we spent some time talking about that, as well as it being the whole continuum was integrated. And I think I'm going to end with something that Jason shared was, as an administrator, it would be great if we all recognized that instead of seeing things as a referral, we saw them as a request for assistance rather than a teacher passing it off to us to fix or to take care of. I think that was really powerful. So,
thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. You know how I feel about language. Words matter. And saying referral implies a lot. Request for assistance implies a lot.
All right, Kelly, you want me to jump in with, I don't
Yes,
know
please.
what breakout. Man, we didn't have a breakout room team name like Breakout Room 3, but we were pretty awesome as well. And really, folks, we did not watch the clip this time. And instead, Tony kicked us off with talking about some state level. And so we had a lot of state level, and we were focused a little bit more on that systems change takes a lot of time at the state level, and that while some of the work might be siloed, what is the progress that might be being made? So we kind of backed up to even that idea of that on one of Lucille's first slides about the informal progress of team members being able to have common language, common vision, common direction, common coaching, those sorts of things. And even like, and thought about some next steps, and also talked from Kentucky about some changes in thinking about backing up to building regional capacity versus that from a state level. So the state supporting building regional capacity and regional capacity to support districts. And so we were really focused in on that state level discussion and how to start documenting some progress.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for your active participation in those breakout rooms. And again, we encourage all of you to next opportunities when you're connecting with any of us who are supporting your efforts to help us think about how we can help you document your stories and your progress. As Lucille said, it's a great way to share out with stakeholders and get additional support. Lucille, any final thoughts? I'm going to put up the dates for the next PLCs, and we have ideas for what we think topics could be or should be, and we'd love to hear from you as well. If there's something on your mind that you think would be helpful to talk with colleagues from around the country doing this work. So I'll put that up, and then Lucille, go for it.
Yeah, and everybody just give us any thoughts in the breakout room. What I just want to add on to what Kelly said is we're going to move forward with our demo evaluation. Did I use air quotes correctly? And in kind of like a little bit of a electronic newsletter with little blurbs of success stories. So please send us any little brief progress stories you have. Look at the template that we gave, and we're just looking for short stories that we can start circulating to try to create that strength and depth and hope and encouragement. And remember, don't get caught up in the negatives. Keep your nose to the grindstone, keep your eye on the prize, and don't let the negative voices take you down, and help us create an expansive collection of successes. And stay close to each other for the holidays.
Hey, Kelly, could we drop the PowerPoint in? Oh,
Yes,
you
you know
sent it to
what?
me.
I just realized I just sent it to you only. I'll put it in the chat right now. Just give me 1 second.
yeah, those links to the videos, everybody, for the breakouts are there. I know many of you wanted to use them yourselves.
And I'll just reinforce what Lucille said. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I saw that there was feedback from Tammy saying the breakout rooms were really beneficial for learning. So we can definitely do that again in future opportunities when you're all together. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot, Kelly.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Have a good
Somebody
weekend.
put some feedback in the chat about an idea, so I'm trying to write it down.
Cool.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
I was going to say, hey, is your brother doing okay? Was he close to all that?
Thank you for
You guys
asking.
wanna stop the recording.
I do want to stop the recording. Thank you.
Whatever.